What you are about to hear is not casual advice. It is a shift in how you walk, speak, think, act, a shift in how you interpret your circumstances and command your future. Let me tell you something that most men never grasp until it's too late. Your life bends to your assumptions. The way you expect things to go is the way they usually go, not because of fate, but because of focus. Because your dominant thoughts pull circumstances into alignment. They shape how you act, how you speak, how you persist or retreat. So what if you assumed right now that everything is working out for you, even when it's hard, even when it's silent, even when there's no proof? What if you lived like the outcome was certain, like the door was already open, and all you had to do was walk through it? That is not wishful thinking. That is mental engineering. And it is how the greatest minds in history rose through failure, criticism, and fear. Henry Ford didn't hope things would work out. He decided they would. He poured his belief into the unknown before the world believed it was even possible. When everyone said the automobile was a fantasy, he built factories. Thomas Edison didn't doubt after his first 100th or 10,000th failed prototype because he assumed success was inevitable. He didn't need to see it. He carried it in his mind, and he acted as if it was already his. Charles Schwab didn't operate from fear. He operated from faith in his vision, a faith so strong that entire steel empires were shaped by it. His certainty was contagious. His belief made other men follow. And Andrew Carnegie, the man who transformed industry and wealth in America, he did not ask, what if this doesn't work? He moved as if the results were already secured. That is the energy that builds legacies. So why not you? Why not now? Why not today? You've spent enough time worrying, enough time hesitating, enough time telling yourself stories rooted in fear. Now, it's time to flip the script. Because the version of you that hesitates, that overthinks, that shrinks when life gets loud, he cannot coexist with the version of you that walks in certainty. You cannot serve two minds. One must die. So today I hand you a new frame, a new filter, a new standard. Act as if everything always works out, not because it's guaranteed, but because it makes you unstoppable. Because when you assume that success is inevitable, you move with courage, you speak with authority, you command your life instead of negotiating with it. This video is your reset, your new operating system, and it is to be repeated, not once, not twice, daily, until your subconscious accepts this certainty as law, until doubt withers in the presence of your calm, because fear cannot live where faith is present. And the moment you live in alignment with the assumption that the outcome is secured, you destroy fear. So listen with intensity. Speak these truths aloud. Let them enter your nervous system like fuel. Because what we do next is not motivation, and it is reprogramming. And by the end of this hour, you will not think the same, and you will not move the same, and you will not be the same. Let's begin. Let's start with a question that has the power to rewrite your entire life. What if it all works out? Not just the small things, not just the comfortable outcomes, but all of it. The setbacks, the delays, the pain, the silence, the detours, the moments where nothing made sense. What if all of it, every piece of the struggle, is building the exact version of you required for the dream you've been asking for? Most people don't live in that possibility. They live in worry. They wake up bracing for failure. They talk about worst-case scenarios. They expect betrayal. They wait for the bottom to fall out, even when life is rising. And because of that expectation, they unconsciously direct their energy toward what they fear instead of what they want. But there's another way to live, a way that doesn't require hype, a way that doesn't demand perfection, a way that simply asks one thing from you: to believe before you see. Because here's the truth. Belief isn't a reaction. Belief is a choice. And that choice directs the energy of your mind. The subconscious does not argue with you. It accepts what you feed it, and then it builds around that assumption. If you say, things never work for me, your subconscious says, understood. And it begins filtering your world through that lens. That's what you start to notice. That's what you start to expect. That's what you attract. Not because of magic, but because you stopped looking for anything else. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine waking up, no matter the circumstance, with this quiet command running in the background. Everything is working out for me. Even if you're broke, even if you've been betrayed, even if the path isn't clear yet, you still move like it's happening. You still execute like the doors are already opening. You still build like the foundation is solid. That belief alone, practiced daily, would rewire your entire life, because when you assume things are working in your favor, you become calmer under pressure. You become more patient in the waiting. You move with power even when the evidence isn't there yet. This isn't delusion. This is leadership of self. Thomas Edison once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's not just perseverance. That's a man who assumed the light bulb was already his. It was just a matter of time. He didn't ask, what if this never happens? He asked, what else can I try because I know it's coming? That mindset is the difference between the man who folds after 3 setbacks and the one who becomes a legend. Henry Ford, when his investors laughed at the idea of a car for the common man, he didn't try to prove himself with words. He didn't shrink into fear. He moved forward like the world was wrong and his vision was already done. And that's not arrogance. That's assumption with discipline. It's the decision to act like it's working, even when you can't see it yet. The weak wait for proof. The powerful move as if the proof already exists. That's what this mindset gives you. It removes the need for validation. It replaces panic with posture. And it installs a new belief system. The outcome is certain. I just haven't arrived yet. So let me ask you again, what if it all works out? What if the delay was divine? What if the betrayal was protection? What if the confusion was construction? What if the thing you're calling a setback is the exact detour that will introduce you to the version of you you actually need? You see, once you install that assumption, once it becomes your default, you no longer fear the unknown. You welcome it. Because the unknown is not the enemy. It's the evidence that something bigger is forming. And your only job is to keep moving, to build when it's boring, to lead when no one's clapping, to act like the outcome is locked in, even if the scoreboard says you're losing. Because the scoreboard doesn't measure your spirit. It doesn't track your faith. It doesn't see what's building behind the scenes. Only you know that. Only you know how deep this decision goes. So say it to yourself right now. I live as if everything is working for me. I don't panic, I prepare. I don't beg for signs. I build in silence. And I will not fold because I've already decided the ending. This is not mindset fluff. This is mental warfare. It is the choice to walk through the chaos with order in your mind, because once you decide how this ends, you don't need to flinch at the middle. Act as if everything works out. And soon it will. Because what the mind accepts, the world starts to mirror. There is one quality above all others that separates the drifter from the builder, the lost from the locked in, the man who watches life happen from the man who shapes it with his own hands. That quality is definiteness of purpose, a clear, unwavering, unshakable aim, a target burned so deeply into the subconscious that it becomes impossible to ignore, even in silence, even in failure, even in doubt. This is not a vague dream, not a list of goals, not a wish list typed into a phone at midnight and forgotten by morning. This is purpose, written with fire, carried with discipline, protected with your life. Because without purpose, your energy scatters. Your hours are stolen by distraction. Your focus is hijacked by the next shiny thing. You chase a dozen paths and master none. You build halfway and then walk away. You mistake movement for momentum, activity for achievement, noise for direction. But when you become a man with definiteness of purpose, your path narrows, your vision sharpens. You stop waking up wondering what the day will bring and start commanding the day to deliver what you have already decided. That's power. That's the beginning of transformation. Look at every man who changed the course of history, and you will find a purpose behind his steps. Henry Ford didn't aim to be wealthy someday. He decided to revolutionize transportation, and he pursued it with a focus so sharp the world had no choice but to adjust. Charles Schwab didn't dabble. He knew what he was there to build. He knew what Carnegie needed, and his purpose was so magnetic that others followed. Not because he demanded it, but because his clarity made hesitation impossible. Abraham Lincoln didn't drift into greatness. He made a decision so clear, so final, that not even a divided nation could shake it loose. That's what you need now. A final decision, a line in the sand, a sentence that lives in your bones, so clear that your mind orbits around it every single day. Let me ask you, do you know your purpose? Do you know without a doubt what you are here to do? Because if not, no strategy, no system, no motivational video will save you. Your progress will always be temporary. Your habits will collapse under pressure. Because the one thing that holds it all together is your why, your decision, your purpose. So write it down. One sentence, not 10. 1. What is it you must build before your time here is done? Who must you become? What must you give? What is the result that your life demands? Not because it's easy, but because you decided it matters more than anything else. That's your purpose. And once you have it, you read it aloud every morning. You write it by hand every night. You don't wait to feel inspired. You rehearse it until it replaces every other thought. This is the foundation of all confidence, to wake up and know where you are going. You don't compare, you don't scroll, you don't flinch, because your steps are already assigned. Everything you do, the food you eat, the books you read, the habits you install, the words you speak, the risks you take, it all bends toward one thing, your definite purpose. And that gives you spiritual immunity against distraction. You no longer envy other men's paths because you are locked into your own. You no longer fear failure because you know it is part of the construction. You no longer need approval because your purpose gives you authority. And from that place, your decisions become easy. Clarity becomes your compass. Time bends in your favor because the universe, your mind, and every